Well, hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee and Joe Rayo, who just popped in. Look who dropped by. Oh, I just realized I don't have my headsets. So you know what, Joe? You talk for a minute. I got to go get my headsets. I didn't forget my wine, though. Figures.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. It's the other Joe. And while that Joe gets his headsets, on the agenda this evening, I think we're going to be talking about a big warm up and a big jump in the dew point temperatures to rather sticky and stifling, or at least muggy conditions by this time tomorrow. And also by this time tomorrow, we may very well have experienced some showery and potentially robust thundery weather in and around our area. I see the Storm Prediction Center has upgraded its forecast and has placed most of the area either in a marginal or slight chance of severe for
They upped
tomorrow.
the risk.
Yes.
They upped the risk this morning, and they upped it again this afternoon.
So we've got a potentially busy day tomorrow, Joe.
Yes, we certainly do. And hang on, I had to run up a couple of flights of stairs. David Schwartz pointing out that I remembered the most important part, which was the wine, and I will totally agree with that. Yes, we have Tropical Storm Cristobal in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. It's going to be pinned down there for another couple of days. But it kind of looks like now, Joe, that that's just going to be the main system rather than unless it goes inland and falls apart. Then we may have to look for another low to develop further north. But that seems to be the less likely outcome, that this is just going to kind of straddle the coast, which will limit it or maybe even knock it down a peg in terms of the winds for a little while until it gets far enough north. And then it will start moving northward as we head into the weekend. So it does look as if it may be a threat to the central Gulf Coast in some form, although I'm not going to, it's too early to speculate whether it's going to be a tropical storm or whether it winds up strengthening maybe into a minimal hurricane. Hard to say given the upper air permit parameters. And we're going to get into all of that tonight.
Did anybody find out if this is the earliest that we've had 3 tropical systems?
Yes, it is. It's the June 5th was the date with Tropical Storm Colin, and I believe I'm sorry, I forgot who messaged me about this, but the 4th storm would be June 19th. So if we get another one between now and then, that could be also a new record.
Now Collins was
16.
Recent. When?
16.
16.
Yes.
I was 16 once.
A long time ago.
Yes.
I'm at least my 16 is my age in reverse.
Yes, we are well aware of how old you are. How old
you know that game works out pretty well until you until you pass the number 5. And then you're in trouble.
All right. Well,
all right. So
what do we need to talk about? We've already mentioned now the tropical systems.
So you want
to touch upon tomorrow's potential convective stormy day.
So what do you want to do first? By the way, just want to give a quick welcome to everybody that's watching, that's just joined us from Facebook, from Twitter, from LinkedIn, and also from the meteorologist Joe Chaffee weather app. We are live almost every day from 7 to 8, and Sundays from 11 a.m. till noon. That's right. The usual plan of attack.
Right.
So what do you want to do first?
What can we do? We can start with, I guess, tonight and the warm.
Well, do you want to do the severe weather first? Do you want to do do you want to do the tropical storm first? What do you?
Well, we can talk about the tropical storm. I mean, it's not on our immediate horizon, but again, it's certainly of interest that we're now working on number 3, and we've only gotten 2 days into the month of June already.
And usually when we get into the tropical storms, this is when, a lot of times we get folks that join in from the geographic areas where there might be potential impact. And of course, we welcome those viewers that come on board. We appreciate you being here. So let's look at Cristobal first on the visible loop. And it's a nice little ball of convection there that's down in the southwest Gulf. Circulation is obvious. You can see the rotation fairly well. The whole Gulf of Mexico just seems to be loaded with moisture all the way up to off the Florida coast there, the Florida West Coast. And this is going to take, you can see, Joe, it's pinned down there in that southwest, in the southwestern corner of the Bay of Campeche. A lot of times storms that develop down there never get out. They get trapped and then they drift inland and then they just disappear.
Right.
This one eventually will have the alleyway to move northward, starting probably later on Thursday, but it really will begin to accelerate a bit further north when we get into Friday and Saturday.
Right. And this will be one for the Southland, the Gulf coastal states. Lots of rain looming on the horizon for them, as this system, of course, loaded with tropical moisture, heads northbound. And it looks to me, Joe, like it's going to be more of a problem in terms of the amount of rain that it's going to bring, as opposed to any significant wind. Although who knows, the thing may actually unexpectedly intensify as it gets further up into the Gulf of Mexico, although I don't think the Gulf is quite that warm yet to cause any kind of system to suddenly or rapidly
The
develop in.
waters are a little above normal, and the Southwest Gulf is warm, but it's not like if believe it or not, if this were maybe later in the month, if this were maybe in late June, I probably would be more concerned with this strengthening into something a bit more formidable. But you're right about the rain. I just put WPC's 7-day rainfall forecast map up, and they've got this 5 to 7 inches along the Gulf Coast of from Mississippi to the Florida Panhandle. They seem to be emphasizing the rain further to the east, which kind of makes sense if you follow a track that goes northward. And let's just say, right now we're just speculating, but let's just say if you get a landfall somewhere along the central Louisiana coast, it would make sense that the heaviest rains are going to be to the east, the way the WPC has it drawn, and they even have some pretty hefty rains getting down into southwestern Georgia, with several to 6 inches of rain forecast there. Florida, this actually is a bit of a blessing, if only because of the fact that they have experienced on and off dry conditions. They did get some rain last week, but this is going to be a fairly solid statewide rain that they're going to get out of this, spread over the next 7 days. So this is at least some good news from that respect. But there's always too much of a good thing. So we'll have to just kind of monitor this and see how much of this, if it gets to a point that we're going to wind up seeing flash flooding. We'll have to just wait and see.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just clicked on my
Playboy,
no my AOL account.
yes.
It says that are you trying to sign in? If so, this code you'll need this code to finish signing in. And it said device Chrome Windows
Yeah.
when 3:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Pacific Daylight Time.
All right. So that's 6:38.
That's
Right.
6:38 or whatever. Where Vietnam?
Oh, okay. I got my Nigerian prince letter in the oil well investment
Ah,
email today too. So you get those on a regular basis.
ah,
WPC, by the way, also picking up on maybe tomorrow's thunderstorms, because they are showing uh, anywhere between 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter across New Jersey and through much of Pennsylvania. And there's going to be probably another round of thunderstorms maybe on Saturday, but uh, we'll assume that much of this is front end loaded. But it is showing, they're at least showing some rain. No, dry pocket in Virginia, North Carolina for the most part. You've got wet weather up the Mississippi Valley into the northern plains, and also up through the northern Rockies and into the Pacific Northwest, even down into parts of California, which this time of year usually gets pretty quiet. But it looks like, because of the deep troughing that's in the west, that there's some rain that's being forecast maybe a bit further south than you would normally see it. The uh, system, by the way, Joe, with the latest from the Hurricane Center, this is their forecast. This was on the 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time advisory, and this is the forecast map. So it was at 19.1 north, 92.5 west. It's really just kind of just offshore, moving south at 3. So it just goes to show you there's no steering currents at all in that area. The thing is just sitting there. And top winds 40 miles an hour. There's a recon there now, so on its way. So we'll see maybe later on in the show if we get some obs from it. But you see where they take it, just kind of leaving it in the southwest Gulf, and then it starts to inch northward by the time we get to Friday afternoon, and then it starts to move faster in a northerly direction for Saturday, and by Sunday, 1 o'clock, forecast to be somewhere maybe 150 miles or so off the central coast of Louisiana.
Yeah, and that would mean, or if you just do out of sheer extrapolation, that would suggest a landfall perhaps at the Gulf Coast, not too far from New Orleans, your old stomping grounds, early on Monday morning, let's say like 1 a.m. Eastern, or I guess, are those times Central?
That's 1 p.m. Sunday, maybe Sunday evening.
Right. So this is set, those times that you're seeing on the screen right now on the map, that's Central Daylight Time, I guess.
Yes, that would be Central Daylight Time.
Right. So around midnight Sunday night, the fun begins in New Orleans again.
Or it will be well underway. I got some satellite loops here to take a look at, and of course you see on the wider view. This is a view from the Pacific side. This system had its origins in the Pacific when Tropical Storm Amanda, a minimal tropical storm, formed off the coast of Central America and moved inland, and then it came out the other side. And I know that it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while you do get situations like this where you get something on the Pacific side to cross over to the Atlantic side. It's also a little unusual that we're ahead of them. It happened last year, if I remember correctly, and it's happening this year, where at least at this point of the tropical storm season, we are already on our third named storm, and they just had that one system. And of course, the Pacific right now doesn't look like much of anything is going to be happening anytime soon there. But you can see that that giant spiral, that gyre that is sitting over Central America that's just rotating, and it's in this gyre that we've got Cristobal trapped in. It'll then lift up northward, as we said, and the upper air maps all pretty much show that. Here's another view on the visible. I can go close up, and there's the center looks like it's maybe about 40 or 50 miles offshore at best, and just kind of rotating away. Thunderstorms are blowing up nicely. They got to be getting clobbered with heavy rain inland. I mean, all that moisture is just flowing in off the Gulf of Mexico from north to south. They must be getting clobbered with heavy rain there in that part of Mexico.
Oh, no question. And, in some of the high terrain areas, the mountainous terrain, the orographic lifting, the upsloping, probably producing, again, tremendous amounts of rainfall, maybe mudslides or landslides in that area, that particular region. That, of course, you could see barely on the loop because it's enveloped in all this cloud cover. The Yucatan Peninsula, which probably is getting its fair share of wet weather from all.
Yeah, there's some. I can see cloud tops blowing up over the northern part of the Yucatan. I've got this loop is what they call the sandwich loop, which I really like this. This is a combination of the visible and the enhanced higher cloud tops put together. So you could see where the core is. You get this big blow up there just off the coast. And then, of course, you mentioned the Yucatan Peninsula. There's that moisture is blowing up with the high cloud tops there, and they extend all the way up through the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. Some of the cloud cover from that getting blown off now into parts of Florida. But these systems, a lot of times these early season tropical storms tend to be just loaded with moisture, and areas that get hit with them get just clobbered with rain. The one saving grace may be that when it gets up, if it moves northward, assuming it does, and if it is going to have some impact along the central Gulf Coast, that it's not going to be something that just comes in and maybe stalls out. This should keep on moving because you've got this deep trough coming in from the west that's going to should pick it up and take all this moisture northward, way northward.
I'm racking my brains. I'm trying to remember the last time a Pacific system crossed over into the Atlantic. Now, I remember a couple of storms that did the opposite. There are a couple of Atlantic storms that crossed over into the Pacific. I can't remember for the life of me, you know, either in recent or distant years, a storm from the Pacific coming across and reforming in the Atlantic. I don't know if you can or if,
You know what? I can't remember the last one. I don't think it was any whenever it did happen. I don't believe it developed into any storm that would have been notable, where we'd be talking about it because of the impact that it may have had. But I can recall several times where it definitely happens more the other way,
right.
where they cross over. In fact, many times you get tropical waves that move across on the Atlantic side that don't develop until they cross Central America, come out the other side, and then they blow up when they get on to the Pacific side. I'm going to take a look to see where we are with this current reconnaissance flight, and they are not quite there yet. The plane is at 20 north and about 91.5 west. So it's now coming into maybe the northernmost fringe of all of this. But what we can do is I just want to show you what the earlier flight. This was from earlier today. By the way, you can find all of this on tropicaltidbits.com. If you go to current storms, Levi Cowan has he'll have whatever active storms are going on in the tropics, not just on the in the Atlantic and in the East Pacific, but also in the West Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and down in Australia, and then the occasional one that pops up off in South America, which happens once every 10 or so years. But here's the recon from earlier today when they upgraded it to a tropical storm. And what they found was, first off, they were able to close off a circulation center, and it was clearly obvious when you look at the wind barbs. So you've got on the south side, you've got west winds south of the center. You've got southwest winds to the southeast of the center, and then of course they go around. Southeast of the center, and northeast of the center. I'm just going crazy here, and northwest of the center. But if you look at the different colors of the color scale that's on the bottom, the yellow wind barbs are between 45 and 50 knots, and they were able to find a belt of winds at flight level between 45 and 50 knots, roughly about a little less than 60 miles south of where that circulation center is. And then when you go to the northwest quadrant, you also have a belt of 40 to 45 knot winds that were occurring about 75 miles to the northwest, with a fairly decent area of gales. The winds near the circulation center actually were quite light, 0 to 10 knots. You can see all the white wind barbs here going out to the northeast. So it's not, the center is very broad, so they'll be looking to see if that center has tightened up some in this current flight. Of course, if the center is getting very close to land, it may not show the best looking wind field. We'll just let the plane tell us. But once I saw this around midday today, and I had just finished putting up a post about the tropical storm. I had just was getting ready to write my this time at least they had the courtesy to upgrade it to a tropical storm before I wrote my post for Patreon and for my website rather than doing it afterward. But I was pretty impressed here considering how far pinned this system, south this system is pinned.
Joe, I'm wondering if what we're seeing here might be unique. A Pacific storm moving into the Atlantic storm. I only say that because while you were chatting, I went online and did try to do some kind of a search. I actually found on Wikipedia a listing of Atlantic slash Pacific crossover hurricanes that started in the Atlantic and crossed over into the Pacific. There have actually been a total of 18 tropical cyclones that have done this, dating back to 1842.
Right.
But in trying to find vice versa, and trying to find Pacific crossing over into the Atlantic,
It's
I have not been
it's
able to find anything.
rare.
This might be, I don't know. It's
I don't know if it's the first one, Joe. I seem to have it in the back of my mind that it may have happened once or twice. It is rare. It is far rarer than the Atlantic to the Pacific.
right,
Maybe I'm wrong.
right. We got
It's rare, but maybe I'm wrong.
the last time we had, now we had, like, for example, Otto in 2016
Mm-hmm.
that formed on November 20th, dissipated on November the 26th, and that was just one of the crossovers. I guess it dissipated before it had a chance to get a full-fledged name of the Pacific. The last time we had a system that had a name in the Atlantic and then got renamed in the Pacific was in 1996. Hurricane or Tropical Storm Caesar, Caesar, which became Douglas. It formed on July 24th, and it dissipated on August the 6th. But we've had Caesar slash Douglas. We've had Joan slash Miriam. We've had Greta slash Olivia, Fifi slash Orlean, and Irene. And of course, Irene now has long since been retired now. But back in 1971, Hurricane Irene crossed over and became Tropical Cyclone Olivia in the Pacific. So it has happened a lot more frequently.
Oh,
Atlantic
yeah.
Pacific.
Most certainly. I'm trying to load. Here we go. Come on. Load. There we go. I want to bring up the upper air, and then we can switch attention to. I'm trying to get the GFS to come up, and it doesn't want to come up. Oh, God. Why is this happening? These things are not supposed to happen when our show is on the air. Of course, I've got the NAM3 up with the severe weather for tomorrow, but I can't seem to get the GFS up. Well, he must be having a problem on his website. I'm going to just try one more thing. Hang on one second. Or I may have too many windows open here. Let me kill. Yeah, I'm just realizing that my Google Chrome has come to a grinding halt. So don't pick your nose while we're on the air, by the way.
Hurricane Cosme Cosme, is that the name? COSME?
Yeah.
In 1989.
Cosme.
In 1989, crossed from the Pacific, dissipated over northern Mexico, and then its remnants contributed to the development of Tropical Storm Allison in the Atlantic. So there you go. There's one right there that went from the Pacific to the Atlantic.
All right, I'm having like a horrid time here. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right, hold on, because my Chrome is like going insane, and I've lost you. I'm trying to bring everybody back. Hang on one second. All right, I see you.
Hi.
Hi. All right, hang on a second, folks. I'm going to try to get this repaired here. I'm not sure what happened. I mean, I think I kind of know what happens. I had too many windows open. Let me just shut this. See, it won't even let me close it. Ah, okay. I've succeeded. So let's see if I can start it all over again. This is really crazy.
Do you want me to do a tap dance while you're...
Well, no, you know what? I've got SPC's severe weather risk for tonight, which, by the way, they pushed a slight risk up for tonight into tomorrow morning before 7 o'clock, before 8 a.m., into northern Pennsylvania and into western New York. They really nudge it. They even have a marginal risk to New York City for overnight and for northern New Jersey. I think that's a little bit rushing it, don't you?
Well, if we do get anything, I would think that we would not see that until after midnight or toward daybreak at the earliest. I guess that's what they might be thinking for tonight or after midnight or toward daybreak.
Yeah, it could very well be. I am having so much trouble right now, Joe. Hang on one second. I cannot get my screen to shut, and I'm afraid to hit the close button because I don't want to close your window.
If you close me, I'll just come right back at you.
All right, let's see what happens if let's try that. Yeah, it's not even letting me close the window. I can't even open up Chrome again. So, great. We have a night where we've got all this weather going on, and we're having technical issues. So, while I'm trying to repair this, why don't you pontificate a little bit about what you believe is the severe weather risk for tomorrow?
Well, as you can see on the screen, we have a weather watch that has been put into effect for lower sections of Minnesota and also into western sections of Wisconsin, northern Iowa. Uh, there is a there is what appears to be an MCS, mesoscale convection system, which is pretty much not just a singular severe thunderstorm, but a cluster of strong to severe thunderstorms, but not enough to, you know, develop into, let's say, an extratropical cyclone or a low pressure system on its own. But
Right.
this cluster of storms that's now in the area I just mentioned, the southern sections of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, that is a system that may very well propagate or move on an east or east southeasterly trajectory into our neck of the woods and may very well translate for us into some severe weather or strong to severe thunderstorm activity sometime during the day tomorrow if it all holds together.
Okay, I got this. I got everything back up here. So, yeah, I'm bringing up SPC's risk area for tomorrow, and yeah, they expanded it, Joe. All of New Jersey now it's slight risk to New York City, marginal risk over me on Long Island, Southwest Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, up to maybe about Dutchess County, going through the northwest of the Catskills to southwest New York, and the slight risk goes all the way back into Missouri and eastern Kansas. There's another area of slight risk being indicated in northwest Kansas up through western Nebraska, western South Dakota. So it's a pretty active severe weather risk zone. And they've got a 2% of tornadoes for eastern Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey to about New York City down to northern Maryland and northern Delaware.
Right, and this is the same area that the MCS is. They have enhanced, which is one step above slight in that region in the western part of the Great Lakes. And who's to say that that might actually translate for our area tomorrow? I could certainly see that, especially if this area, this cluster holds together. And I see no reason why it can't.
Well, I got the HRRR from 18Z, which takes us out 36 hours. The HRRR model, Joe, shows that mesoscale cluster moving very rapidly across northern Pennsylvania. This is at noon tomorrow, 1 p.m. By 2 p.m., it's in northeastern Pennsylvania, northwest New Jersey. And by 3 in the afternoon, it's right over New York City. I mean, it basically clobbers. It's moving so quickly, and then it's gone. And then you have broken segments of showers and thunderstorms that form over southern New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and Maryland. The NAM3 for tomorrow, Joe, has a slightly different view of this. It has more of an east, rather than have a cluster, it's got more of an east-west line that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon goes across northern Pennsylvania to about western Sullivan County, and then moves southeastward from there, so that by 5 in the afternoon, they've got an east-west line of storms covering all of Long Island, across New York City, right across Route 78 in New Jersey, and then west from there into Pennsylvania, probably close to between Allentown and Scranton, and then running back to just south of Williamsport. And actually, that line even continues all the way back to southeast of Pittsburgh. But it's got much more of an east-west looking line. I'm not sure which one which one has the upper hand here with regards to the models. The HRRR has done very well with thunderstorms so far this season, particularly in the last few weeks. The NAM 3 has had its moments too, but the two models have been fairly consistent. So they're different this time around. I'm just not sure which one's got the upper hand in terms of how it's going to play out tomorrow.
Well, I think the best thing about it is that both models, be it the NAM with the east-west orientation or the HRRR, which has more of a globular type of configuration, whichever, they're both emphasizing this, that these storms, however they come in, are going to be at least strong to possibly severe and at the very least robust. And it looks like that they're aiming for the period just after lunchtime. I usually have my lunch at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would suspect that sometime during the early to mid afternoon tomorrow, the tri state area is going to be embedded in this area of potentially strong to severe weather, which we can see happening right now. Again,
Right.
back over in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa, that's the area that is going to literally race from where it is now into our area by midday tomorrow.
The warm sector for tomorrow is pretty well defined. I mean, we've got temperatures. I'm just looking at some of the high temperatures being forecast off the Weather Service digital database, and 84 or 5 around New York City, 80 by me. Now pushed up 80-degree readings up into the Hudson Valley and into Connecticut, and even into southeastern New England. So it's a little bit more bullish with regards to that warmer air getting into southeastern New England. 90 for Philadelphia, 92 for Baltimore, 92 for Washington. Just kind of curious. I want to see what kind of dew points are being forecast. So I'll bring up the dew point map for tomorrow and take a look at this. Joe, yeah, I mean, the dew points get up into the mid 60s. So mid to even some places pushing 66 or 67. Those are the dew points tomorrow evening. Let me just back up at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And even at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're looking at dew points pretty much between 64 and 67 in that range. This is fairly juicy air that we're going to be dealing with.
I wish there was someplace. There probably is. I just never looked for it on the internet to translate the dew point and the ambient air temperatures into what the severe forecasters call CAPE, CAPE. I do know that when you get capes of, let's say, above 2,000, and one time
Right.
a couple of weeks ago, the folks over at Upton, they had one digit too many, and they said, "Oh, we're looking at capes of 20,000."
Oh yeah, I remember
I
that.
don't think that's possible.
Well,
But
I think if you go to their the mesoscale analysis at SPC's website, I think you can find the maps with the CAPE values.
you can probably find that. I'll bet you that it's even available on the Brookhaven site.
They're out there somewhere.
Yeah.
They are out there somewhere. And of course, you're seeing. I just pulled up the Northeast right now, and if you look on the far left, you can see what Joe was talking about there. That cluster of storms now in Wisconsin. That's the same system that's going to be impacting us here for tomorrow. I'm going to widen out the map.
If you
And
even use if you even use the Alan Casper Pittsburgh rule, and the rule is that you have storms, let's say in Pittsburgh, that'll take approximately 8 hours to go all the way across the keystone of Pennsylvania through New Jersey and into the tri-state area. Well, I'm looking at this map that you have up there right now, Joe, and using the Pittsburgh rule, 8, 16. It looks like that cluster is 16 hours away if it holds together. So that means what? The 7:30, 4 more. That would just back of the envelope would suggest like 11:30 or noontime arrival here in the tri-state area. It may be a little faster, maybe a little slower, but yeah,
Right.
generally midday tomorrow. This looks like something that's going to get ready to hammer.
Well, here's the GFS. I mean, I have the GFS, but for the GFS, it's pretty impressive. It has the cluster. It has more the GFS has the HRRR's look, which is
Right.
that cluster rather than an east-west line. Although it kind of has an east-west line as well. It maybe it's a combination of both. Then that goes by, and now of course you're seeing the rains in the tropics. By the way, from the Southwest Gulf moving over Florida tomorrow night into Thursday, and there's just waves of rain. And then finally, you start to see the system getting ejected northward there and moving up toward the Louisiana coast. Kind of gets hung up for a little while, though, out in the Gulf of Mexico Sunday morning, and then it finally works its way to the coastline and then eventually inland with the heavy rains. It doesn't. It gets it down to about a 93, 92 low, so I would suggest, at least from the standpoint of the GFS, that it doesn't quite get to hurricane status. But I wouldn't go by that because the models don't as many times as the models like to spin things up into Category 5 hurricanes.
Yeah.
They also sometimes don't want to spin them up when they're intensifying. So you want to be a little careful with a judgment call. Meanwhile, Joe, in the Northeast, of course, the system tomorrow with this weak front, that front never really it falls apart once it goes east of us, and it looks like there might be some showers and storms later Thursday or Thursday evening that will pop up. The models seem to certainly the GFS is very bullish on this. A few scattered pop-ups on Friday, and then there's a stronger front. I noticed that the front that's coming through Saturday has a pretty strong upper air trough with it. So maybe Saturday might produce some thunderstorms late in the afternoon before we get into a nice cool high that builds in for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week.
Right. I think Monday is going to be a fabulous day from this vantage point right now. I know, admittedly, it's what 6 days away, but if all pans out, we've got a glorious day coming up. Well, actually, the only difference between Sunday and Monday is that Sunday is likely to be a bit breezier than Monday, but Monday is the center of the high, builds closer to us. Sunny skies, temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, low humidity, dew points in the 40s. So uh, that looks great. And again, you're right. Saturday a little bit problematic. Showers and scattered thunderstorms maybe early in the day, and then maybe we'll see a pop up toward the end of the day as the final push of drier air moves in. And thank you, Timothy Veltman. He points out that the SREF plumes, le plumes,
Oh,
do
the
indeed
plumes do the Cape.
have Cape forecasts.
Would you
So
like
that's
me? I can bring up the plumes, so let's do that. And then we'll come back to the GFS again. Had to do this a little backwards with that little technical accident we have. I want to go back to Tropical Storm Cristobal and just go show the upper air. But I will get the SREF plumes. Le plume de la Brioschi.
have a chance to use the plumes too much this winter.
You know what? If I pulled them up maybe 5 times the whole winter. Uh, yeah, so we have the 3 hour MU Cape, the Mu Cape, and the ML Cape. So which Cape is it?
I don't. I
Okay, so all right, so we'll start with the MU Cape. Oh, you're gonna love this.
the Mew Cape.
The Mu Cape. So the Mu Cape has.
Now, what are you going with? New York or
Oh yeah, no, I better change this. I forgot to change the geography. They have it set for Oklahoma City, and I'm seeing Cape values up around 5,000. So I'm thinking, boy, we're going to have a fun time here tomorrow with Cape values. And then I noticed, I said, wait a minute, it's got Cape values of 3,000 right now. So then I realized that the wrong geography.
wah,
So
wah.
let's get to New York. And of course, it's being stubborn. Come on. Seriously?
By the way, while you're
There we
waiting to do
go.
this, happy birthday to Jerry Mathers, who turned 75 today. With a B.
I thought he left us. I thought he left us. So I'm
No,
glad
he's
to
still with
see
us.
that he didn't.
He's still with us.
He's still lurking about.
Right. Rob from My Three Sons is no longer with us, but that's neither here.
Oh, yeah. Grady? was his name?
Bob, yeah.
Bob Grady. All right, so here are your Cape values for tomorrow. The mean Cape value tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock we've got a 942, and by 5 o'clock it's at 1,133.39. That's the mean. But you've
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of members that go up to between 1,500 and 2,000.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty impressive. Okay, that's the Moo Cape. Okay, now the ML Cape mean is at 822. Uh, but you do have a fair number of members that go between 1,000 and 1,500, and you actually also have a few more than a few members that go from 1,500 to 2,000. So the Cape values, I've had mixed experiences with the Cape values. I've had instances where the Cape values have been off the wall and we wound up with nothing. I've had instances where the Cape values haven't been anything to write home about, and we've had the severe weather. But for what it's worth, these are the numbers, and usually the high, when you get these higher numbers, it's more indicative of a risk of severe weather. Obviously, not the 5,000 for Oklahoma City.
Do you remember the trajectory forecasts where they gave the K index?
Yes.
And I loved looking at those, and now unfortunately they've
Or the
gone.
lifted index on the FOOS.
No, there was a well,
No, I
the
know the
lifted index on
K.
the
Yeah, yeah. No,
uh,
no, I know that. But you could also look at the lifted index on the FOOS.
right. Well, the lifted index, if we had a lifted index, well, 5 plus 5 is like the bare minimum. Anything below 0, and if you get like values of like -5 or -7, I haven't looked at the
The
FOOS today.
FOOS.
The let's take a
You
quick
take a look at the FOOS.
let's take a look here. It is the intermediate FOOS, unfortunately, but still.
It doesn't. Yeah,
Um,
it don't matter.
oh, oh,
What?
Joe.
Minus what?
Oh, at 24. This is run from 2 o'clock this afternoon. So 24 hours from 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. tomorrow. Lifted index -8.
Are you kidding me?
-8.
That's insane. That's off the wall. That's an off the wall lifted index.
That's true. Well, even at let's see, what do we have here? At 8 a.m. tomorrow, -7. -7 at 8 a.m. -8 at 2 p.m. And then it jumps back to -2 at 8 p.m. tomorrow night.
I gotta take a look at this.
So the FOOS, the 18Z FOOS, the NAM FOOS, is waving violently the red flag, saying, "Hey, look at this! Look at this!"
Let me see. LaGuardia.
Even Williamsport
Wait,
has.
Joe, the lift. Yeah, okay. Tomorrow morning. Yeah, -7 and -8. I
Yeah,
don't know that I've ever seen FOOS numbers that low on the
that,
lifted index.
that's way
They are
down there.
really off the wall negative during the day tomorrow. That is astounding.
Yeah,
That really
and
is.
that's it. As I said, that kind of waves a red flag, like, "Hey guys, this is gonna be something nasty." I think.
By the way, folks, that's what the FOOS looks like. I just put it on the screen. It's literally the NAM model digitally, and you just kind of have to know how to read the code.
Right.
It's a secret code. They'd have to, you'd have to um, pay us millions of dollars for us to reveal it. Um, but it's actually not very difficult to read. One of these days, when there's no weather going on, we can kind of go through it and
It you
and
know
uh, explain
it
it.
it shows that between 2 o'clock tomorrow morning, you talk about this stuff getting in here real fast, which is why they pushed all of this stuff on the from SPC in here by tomorrow morning. But between 2 o'clock tomorrow morning and 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, they dump in that 6 hour time frame on the FOOS 1.57 inches of rain.
Wow.
But then weird, after 8 a.m. tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow,
Hmm.
only 600s. I mean, where did that come? That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And then after that, from 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon to 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, they have 0.47.
Right. That's that. If it's that cluster look, I mean, they're going to be moving so quickly. It's
Right.
going to be hard to put down a whole lot of rain. Just to take a look, at the rest of the country. Yes, that is snow up in Labrador. Wednesday night, Wednesday evening, and Wednesday night might be maybe the last time they see it for a couple of months. And around the rest of the country, particularly in the west, there's not a whole lot happening. You get to later Friday, you start to get some precip out in the western part of the U.S. because of the deep trough that's moving in there. And of course, that deep trough is a driver of lifting up Cristobal into toward Louisiana. And yeah, that is snow in Oregon, Nevada, and northeastern California over the weekend. Again, this is a very deep, cold trough coming into the west for this time of year. It certainly is. And that cool air is probably going to make it all. They got northerly winds all the way down into through Southern California and beyond. So that is chilly air that is being dragged pretty far south for this time of year. And of course, we've got our own cool high building into the east for Sunday and Monday, as you said earlier, and even into Tuesday. The weather for Sunday and early next week really looks very nice. And the reason why, just again, I'm sorry having to doing this backwards, but it just that's the way it worked out today with my technical issues. But I just want to show you the upper air, and then we're going to come full screen and take a few questions if you'd like. But if you take a look at the jet stream pattern here across the eastern two-thirds of the United States, and there on here we are into early Wednesday morning. So here is what's Cristobal. You've got a deep trough running from New Brunswick southeast over Nova Scotia and out into the Atlantic. You've got a big upper high sandwiched between the Azores and Greenland. There's another deep cutoff that is sitting right near the Azores. And the flow across the U.S. is basically west to east. But we've got this northwest flow that's moving, from Canada into the northeast. So we keep getting these, weak short waves that come on through, with one coming through for tomorrow. And meanwhile, your tropical system's kind of trapped down here, so it's got to wait for a mechanism to bring it up. Now, what's going to happen is, as the trough in the Atlantic lifts out, you're going to have a ridge of high pressure that starts to build off of the Bahamas. You're also going to have an upper high over Mexico that's going to be moving east. Now that actually starts to create a bit of a southerly flow around the high that's east of of Florida, and that will start the process of moving this system out of the Southwest Gulf and getting it to move northward. You see it here. By the time we get to Saturday, it's literally sandwiched between two ridges. You got this upper ridge here back through Texas, Mexico. You've got this upper ridge that's over Cuba and the Dominican Republic. And right in the middle is your tropical system. And in the meantime, we've got this strong shortwave trough that's coming down out of Canada. This is what I'm thinking with regards to thunderstorms maybe for later on Saturday. And then that trough swings off the East Coast, much like this one did. And there you have it. So it's a matter of whether Cristobal winds up. If it goes inland and the center disappears, then we may go back to that scenario where a new separate system forms in the south central Gulf. But it seems like it wants to maintain a certain degree of continuity. That's what the Hurricane Center is going with in their forecast right now. They've backed away from the idea of two separate systems and just going with the one. So now we're back full screen. I appreciate everybody's patience tonight.
It almost is like it's locked in a channel, if you will, and will be like, I guess maybe by the end of the weekend, maybe it'll get squirted out somewhere to the north.
But by the way, can you see the chat? Because
Yes, I can.
I cannot.
I can see it.
All right, I cannot see the chat tonight. So I will leave it
will
up to you. By the
take a
way,
look.
fix your camera because your nose. Oh, I got the chat back. There you go.
Okay. There we are.
Okay.
Somebody said Chuck Cardillo, and we mentioned this, Chuck, earlier. Maybe you weren't online. 1989 Hurricane Cosme or Cosma crossed from the Pacific and later became Tropical Storm Andrea in the Gulf of Mexico. So it has happened before.
Okay, so I can't even get. I was trying to get.
Thank you, William. Thank you, William Huber, for super chats. Wife went into her pocketbook. She said it was nice to meet you today.
Oh, and nice to meet her. Uh, uh, Bill actually lives. Bill lives close to me. I live close to him, and we walk together from time to time. And I ran into him and his wife walking this morning as I was doing my 10 miles today, Joe. 10 miles.
You're making me look so bad.
Yeah, but I have to tell you something. I was sitting on the couch at about 1:30, and the next thing I knew, it was 3 o'clock. And I
Oh,
usually, if I take a snooze, it's usually only for about 20 or 30 minutes. But this one was for the record books. Okay,
this
I cannot load. I'm trying to get uh, the Briller Jeopardy for tonight, and I cannot load Messenger, so I can't see it. So we'll have to save it for tomorrow night, unless you've got something on your end.
oh,
Do you have something on your end?
no, I don't have any. No one, not Mr. Veltman, not Mr. Briller. Nobody has sent me anything.
Okay, so I guess we're not going to be able to do it tonight. This was the Gremlins were flying, um,
And I left my
I
candy cigarettes
suppose.
upstairs too.
What's that?
And I left my candy cigarettes upstairs too.
Well, okay, well that's good. That's
Right.
good to know. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Maybe we'll if the severe weather breaks in the early part of the afternoon, maybe we'll jump on really quick, or will you short fuse it?
Yeah, maybe we'll do both. I'm not sure, but I only hope I don't lose. Somebody said I hope I don't lose power. I hope I don't lose power. These look like Joe. These look like nasty storms. Somebody's going to get kicked like the proverbial pinata. I
Yeah,
think.
I agree. I agree. They're gonna, especially if they're moving like a rocket ship. There might be some pretty strong winds with them too, so we probably have to watch out for that. And
That's
again,
like the equivalent. That's like the equivalent of a modest hurricane, but being shoved along like 50 miles an hour on the forward speed. So even with a modest system, when they move really fast, watch out. It's like the George Foreman.
yeah, exactly. All right, so let's wrap it up tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate it greatly. And as we, by the way, as if Cristobal, as it becomes more and more of an issue for the Gulf Coast, we will of course spend more and more time on it as we move through the rest of the week and into the weekend. Jacob Mushakov, hi back. He says hi to both of us. I believe that's the name I haven't seen on the chat board, so he's new to the channel, and we welcome you. Thank you for being here. I hope you come back. Hope you like what you've seen. And trying to
Mushayakov? Is that how you Mushayakov?
Mushayakov
That's how I would pronounce it.
or Mushakov,
Or Mushakov.
Mushyakov.
Oh,
I always try to make an effort to pronounce. You have three letters in your name and two of them are vowels. Okay,
right.
so although I don't understand, I've had people like Rio. I've had people like it's Ray. There's an A and an O, so why would you go Rio?
Rayo, RAO is can be both an Indian name and an Italian name.
Right.
And I used to get a lot of stuff from Indian organizations, like, "Hey, you're in Who's Who in India." Really, really? Uh, and
Oh,
if
that's
you're
yes,
from
yes.
if you're from India and it's Rayo, it's not Ray, it's Rao.
Rao. Yes,
But if you're Italian, like the restaurant
it's Rayo.
on 114th Street and Pleasant Avenue,
To which
it's
you have no
it's Rayo.
connection.
Yes.
Unfortunately, otherwise you'd get us reservations. Uh, yes. For me, of course, it's Chaffee. There's no H. There's no E in it. Okay. So, um,
Who was that person who never was able to pronounce your name at FiOS One, and you were getting all bent out of shape about that?
oh no, I know who you're talking about. No, she could. Yeah, she could not. She was anchoring, and she could not pronounce my name, and um,
We won't mention.
we pre-taped a lot of stuff,
Right.
and so she had to do it. She had to do it like in 9 or 10 takes, and she could not get it. It's like two syllables, chaffee. Okay, But I will tell you this. I mean, that was a pet peeve of mine. And Joe, you've known me for many years. I mean, and we worked together these last 4+ years at FiOS. We were side by side. I'm a pretty easy person to get along with,
Right.
right? I mean, seriously, I usually don't cause problems. I let a lot of stuff roll off my back. I really, I sort of had this laissez-faire attitude. But when you work in the television business, it's really important to get someone's name right, particularly if it's somebody you work with.
Right.
And we had I forgot who the reporter was, but they referenced me in a story, and they pronounced my name wrong. And it's like I lost it. That was one of the few times in my career where I actually lost it, because that's a simple pick up the phone and just ask how to pronounce it correctly. It's
Right.
very easy to do. It's very lazy for not doing it. But anyway, that's one of the few times that one blew one's stack.
Yes. Like Fred Mertz. Wait a minute, will you?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Um,
All right. So we'll see how we'll play this out tomorrow. Should be interesting.
that it should. Okay, have a great night, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. And I did for Patreon members, I did a severe weather update right before we went on the air. There's a new Patreon post about tomorrow's severe weather, so you might want to take a look at that. All right, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.